So we are using the quadratic formula. I'm going to tear this out and start a fresh paper. First thing I'm going to have you guys is slowly, step by step, I want you to copy down the formula again with me on a fresh sheet of paper. Just get practice being comfortable writing it out. Okay? So, everybody, let's start with x equals. Okay. X equals. And we're going to write negative, and then in parentheses, b. X equals negative b. Okay. Now let's get this funky symbol. I think this throws a lot of people off, the plus or minus. Go ahead and draw a plus sign. And then just put a minus sign right under it. All this means is that we are going to be adding negative b to our answer at the end, and we're going to take negative b minus that answer at the end. It's just telling us that we're doing two different problems at the end of all of our work. Okay? So we've got negative b plus or minus. I'm going to start with a big old check mark. That's a square root. I'm going to give it a hat like that. Okay. Now under your square root, I'm going to put in parentheses the letter b. And that b is going to be squared. We're going to take b times b there. That's all that means. B squared is b times b. After that, we're going to have minus 4 times a in parentheses. Yes, Star.
Okay, I know when we get through all of this, the B's and the A's and the C's change.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else stays the same.
Yes, exactly.
Why does -4 always stay the same?
It's just part of the equation, I guess, or part of the formula.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
the
so,
numbers all change,
uh-huh.
but yet that score remains. That is the constant in all of this.
Yes, that and the 2 on the bottom, that also
Right.
never
I was
changes.
gonna ask about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, how do those two numbers? I mean, I know they're whole numbers.
Like where'd they
yet
come from?
Negative numbers. Yeah.
Where'd they
one's a
come
negative,
from?
One's a positive.
Yeah.
How do those remain the same in this vast equation?
That's a wonderful question that I don't have the proper answer to at this moment, because I actually I could look that up during lunchtime, figure out exactly where this formula comes from. I'm sure there's a 10,000 step process to finding it.
Right. But I mean, that kind of throws me because I'm
Yeah.
expecting that to change, but yet it doesn't change.
Yes. So the -4 or the -4, that is always going to be part of your problem. The 2a is always part of your problem. It will never change. It's just there.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's nice that it doesn't change. It would make it really complicated if it did.
Right.
It's
Okay.
already complicated enough.
Oh,
It
yes.
says it's directly related to the process of completing the square.
Ah, okay.
Well,
And we
now
have
you
not
know.
learned about that, completing the square. We could talk about it some at some point, but
Okay.
I don't want to confuse y'all more than we already are. We're going to stay with this for now.
Okay.
So we have the top part of our formula. We've got x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, everybody with me there? Then we divide everything by 2 times a. Okay. 2 times a. So there's our formula. This is the original kind of base that we are plugging numbers into. We're going to replace A, B, and C with the letters we find in our equation. So let's look at the first problem I gave you in your do now. I'm going to just rewrite it. The first one was 2x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so on that handout I gave you that says the quadratic formula, what does step 1 tell you to do? Yes, yes. The first thing we always do is identify the values for A, B, and C. So let's do that. And I'm going to use colors. I think that really helps me. Might help you guys. So what's my A? 2. So I'm going to write that off to the side. A equals 2. What's my B? Negative 4. B is negative 4. Let me make sure I'm using the same color. B is negative 4. And then what's C? Negative 3. Good. Okay. So I know what A is. I know what B is. I know what C is. Now, all we're going to do here in step 2 is we're going to replace A, B, and C in that formula with the numbers that we just identified. So let's actually go ahead and we're going to rewrite this formula again. The more you write it, the easier it's going to feel. So this time, instead of writing A, B, and C, we're going to write the numbers. So everybody go ahead and put x equals. Then I need negative and then a blank parentheses. What goes in that first blank parentheses? Negative 4. Good. Okay. What comes next? Plus or minus. Plus or minus. How about next?
Square root.
Square root. Big old square root. Okay. Then it looks like I've got B in parentheses, so I'm going to make a parentheses. And what number goes in there? Good. Negative 4 again. That's our B. Squared. There's a little 2 exponent right there, so we're going to be squaring negative 4. Okay. So we've got all our B's plugged in. B is done. We're done with B for now. What else goes under this big square root? Good. Minus 4 times what? 2, because that's our A. And then times what?
Negative 3.
Good. C, or negative 3. Okay, and then our very last part of the quadratic formula is what?
2.
Good. We're going to divide all of that by 2 times A, which is 2. 2 times 2. Good. Good, good, good. Okay, so step 2 is the part where we're very careful. We want to plug all of our numbers in. But this is step 2. We're done now. We have all our numbers in the place in the formula where they need to be. So what I'm going to have us do next to simplify all of these numbers is, instead of worrying so much about order of operations like we were talking about on Thursday, let's just go left to right, because in this formula, the way that things are laid out, it's not going to affect our answer too much. If we just go left to right, we'll get the same thing. So let's just worry about it that way. So what I'm going to have you do next is rewrite again x equals. And we're going to simplify everything as we go. Okay, so let's start with this first part. I've got negative, in parentheses, -4. What does that become? +4. Is anyone confused about that?
No.
Okay, so let's write +4. What comes next?
Plus or minus.
Good. Plus or minus. Then we got our square root.
-4.
Yeah, so now I have -4 squared.
-16.
I got
Ooh.
2.
Did you do the square root instead of -4 squared?
-4.
I think you did. Okay, so guys, this is where we need to be very careful. Do we remember what it means to square a number? We're just multiplying it by itself. So -4 squared means -4 times -4. So if that helps to see that written out, maybe write it out. I'm going to do this. -4 times -4. What is -4 times -4?
16.
What's a negative times a negative? A positive. Any number squared is going to be positive unless the negative is outside the parentheses. So because b is inside the parentheses, we've got -4 squared. This is going to be +16. If you type in your calculator, I see why some of you get negative. If I type negative, oh, let me turn it on. -4 squared, you are going to get -16. But the reason you get this on your calculator is because this calculator is using the order of operations and it's reading it as 4 squared, which is 16, times a -16. If you want to do it on your calculator, you need to type it in exactly how it's written. -4 in parentheses, then squared. +16. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so -4 squared gives us +16.
I find it easier to just do -4 times -4 in the
Yes.
calculator.
Yes, and that if that works for you too, then absolutely, you'll get the right answer.
I think I realized what I did wrong in my problems. I mixed up the A and the C when putting it out, and
That'll do it.
it's why I confused a bunch of the numbers. I was like, wait a minute, just keep right.
I get you. Nope, it's super easy to make mistakes in this formula. There's a lot of variables involved, and so it gets a little confusing. But you guys can do this. It's just going to take some practice. Okay, so we did our -4 squared, and we got 16. What should we do next?
4 times 2 times -3.
Yeah, we've got 4 times 2 times -3, or we could think of this as -4 times 2 times -3. Okay, is anybody confused about what I just said? We can talk about it. A little bit? Okay, so here's kind of what can happen. If I am subtracting a number, it's really the same thing as adding a negative. So to me, it's going to be easier to keep track of what's happening later on if I know that I'm going to have 16 plus something. And whenever I have a negative times a negative, I'm going to get a positive. I've got -4 times -3 over here in this problem. I'm going to end up with a positive answer. Okay, so let's just try typing this in our calculator. -4 times 2 times -3. I got 24. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to do plus 24.
That's what I've been getting confused with.
That's where
Yeah,
The
me
plus
too.
sign, dropping the plus sign down. I
Yeah.
put the minus at the bottom instead of the plus because I'm carrying it from the 4.
Okay, so how about this? I feel like this is confusing. How about in our quadratic formula, instead of making it -4 and having to remember to change it to a plus and all of that, let's just change the formula for good so we don't have to worry about it. Let's make it
Yeah.
plus -4 times A times C. Okay?
Hallelujah.
Let's do that. That way we never have to remember to change it to a plus. It'll just be plus -4 times A times C.
So then in our formula sheet,
Yes.
go ahead and change it.
I'm going to change it on there too. Plus -4 times A times C. Plus -4 times A times C. Might help us avoid some confusion. Plus -4. Okay?
Yes.
Good deal. I'll let everybody get caught up to where we are before we move forward. Good. I'm glad that helps.
No, this last part doesn't make sense for me.
Which last part where we're multiplying?
No, after this, after what you gonna do after this next step, let's.
Okay, so don't worry. We'll go by it. We'll go through it real slowly. I want you to tell me to stop. If you don't know it, tell me to stop. We'll talk about it till you do get it. Okay. Does everybody have up to this point? We've got 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 24.
Yeah.
Everybody got that? Okay, so what is next?
You have to.
Oh,
Yes, we have all of this divided by 2 times 2. I don't know why I wrote that. 2 times 2 is
4.
4. So I'm going to write 4. I shouldn't have wrote 2 times 2 under there. It's all being divided by 4.
Okay, that's where I'm at.
Good. Okay. Before we go to the next step, do we get this?
Yes.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's simplify even more. I'm just going to write it to the side here. I can't simplify my 4 really yet. Plus or minus is going to stay. Oh, I got 16 plus 24. What's that going to give me? 40. So let's rewrite it. I've got 4 plus or minus the square root of 40 divided by 4. Okay, that's where we are now. Before we do the next step, does everybody understand how we got to here?
Oh, yes, girl.
If you don't, I promise I'm not going to be frustrated with you. I want you to tell me so we can get you here.
Because we took 16 plus 24.
Yes.
And we came 40.
And we just carried everything else
Yeah.
over. Good. Okay. So now, what else can we simplify?
Can we simplify 40 again?
We can. Now we need to type in square root of 40 and see what that is. So remember, to type in a square root, you hit second on your calculator at the top left, blue button, and the very left side, you're going to see a button that says x squared with the square root above it. Click that, and this will pop up on your screen. Then just type 40 and hit enter.
Yeah, I got a decimal.
Yeah, you will get a decimal. And we're going to keep 2 decimal points here. Let's do 6.32. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to start a new row here. Now I have x equals 4 plus or minus that number we just got for the square root of 40, 6.32. Okay? What am I missing? Yeah, divided by 4. Good. Okay. Now, let's look at that cheat sheet. We're at step 4 now. We want to separate the plus or minus sign into our two equations. You guys see that? We don't have any more crazy symbols. All we got is numbers, pluses, and minuses. So let's start with the plus. I'm going to draw an arrow out here. And now I have 4 plus 6.32.
Okay, if I put 6.3, right?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Divided by 4. And then what would the other equation look like? Yeah, same numbers, just with a minus sign instead. 4 minus 6.32 divided by 4. Okay. So, everybody to this point, we've got our two separate equations now. Everybody feel okay about how we got here? Okay, if we don't feel good about how we got here, what can we talk about and explain a little more to help us feel good about this?
Math problems so long.
Well, it just is. This is algebra 2, girl.
They get longer.
They do. They do. This is like the first part of algebra 2, guys.
What was the answer a long time ago?
Okay, so we are to here. Even if you don't feel great about it, do you understand how we got here?
Yeah.
Is anyone lost?
I'm lost after 4.
After what?
26, 16 plus 24 and 4. I'm lost after all these other.
Okay, do you know how we got?
Yeah, I know
From-
all of that, but after that, like after we got that 4, I'm lost.
Okay, are you confused about how we moved from the 40 to the 6.32? Okay, let's talk about that one more time. So on your calculator, right here, we have what is called the square root of 40. Basically, that just means we want to find what number we can multiply by itself is going to give us 40. So that would be really difficult for us to figure out on pencil and paper. So our calculator gives us a little trick that we can do. To find a square root on your calculator, I'm going to explain this again, and I want you to do it with me. Top.
Every now it's too much. You can go on. I know what it is.
Okay.
I think it's gonna take more practice of it.
That's all right. We'll do lots of practice. Okay, so let's do the plus one. We have 4 plus 6.32. What's that?
10 plus 0.32 divided by 4.
Yeah, 10.32 divided by 4.
Divided by 4, that's 2.58.
Yeah, and we're just going to type that in.
Thank you for the answer.
10.32 divided by 4 is 2.58.
That's the.
And there's nothing to simplify there. That's one of our answers. We're done with that one. Yes.
Okay, so that's probably. I guess the odd number is where it's a decimal point is making
Yes.
it look a little crazy for us.
Yes.
Versus the whole numbers.
So whenever we're doing the quadratic formula, we are going to get lots of decimals. We will. We have to get a little more comfortable with decimals because in the previous maths, we didn't do a lot of decimals. It was a lot of whole numbers or even fractions.
Like we was checking our answers by doing this method.
Yes.
So that's why I was getting confused at because we didn't have point decimal points.
Yes.
We only had whole numbers.
Yes. So moving forward, we're going to get lots of decimal
Okay,
points.
so that could be correct.
Yes. So that, in this case, this one is correct.
That's why you have to use the quadratic formula for these.
Because we wouldn't be able to factor x minus 2.58 and x plus 2 point something something, you know? That's why, we got to use the formula. And this is still so brand new for you guys. Y'all are doing really well.
So they're pretty much all gonna be decimals.
For the
You
most
have to
part.
use the quadratic
If it
formula.
doesn't get a decimal, we'll be pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's do the bottom one. 4 minus 6.32 divided by 4.
That's negative 2.32.
Okay, yep, we got negative 2.32 divided by 4.
Which is negative 0.5.
Yep, negative 0.58. Yes, those are our answers. So we would get x equals negative 0.58 and 2.58. That would be our answer, guys. Whew. Takes a long time, but we've got this.
And I assume we're good to do it the way that you showed it last week, where you do the 4 plus the square root, and then after that divide.
I thought it was so wrong.
So like that.
So very.
Like, don't simplify the square root yet.
Yeah, so just do that in the calculator and then divide it all by 4.
Yes,
Just
you
go
could
back.
totally do it
Okay.
that way too. 100%. So actually, before we go through the next problem, let me actually pass out these new calculators. This is going to make this process a lot easier. Yeah, we're going to use these for number 2 now. So let's look at the second problem. I'm going to move mine to the side. Anybody still need this work, or can I tear it out and go to the next page?
Mine is saying press out the.
Everyone in high school
wanted to.
Yeah, just press clear. Deadly snake.
Okay. So now let's look at number 2. I've got 3x squared plus 2x minus 3. I'm going to rewrite that problem.
This one's dead.
It's dead. Okay, here, come up here and I'll give you some batteries.
Off the same. One battery and then.
Here you go. I'll take your old one. I know they're such a pain in the butt. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, right.
3x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okie dokie. So, what's the first thing we need to do?
Label are the numbers.
Yes, we need to identify A, B, and C.
But we don't need to equal 0.
Oh, my bad. Equals 0. Totally forgot. I forgot to write it. That's my bad. Okay, so what is our value for A? 3. What is our B? 2. What's our C?
-3.
Good. -3. Okay. Now we're just going to plug those numbers into the quadratic formula. So we'll do it nice and slow. X equals negative what? 2. Our B is 2. -2
Plus or minus.
plus or minus
The root thing.
square root
2.
2 squared. See that? Do plus -4 times A. What's A?
3.
3 times C. -3. Good.
Divided by
Divided by
2.
2, 3.
3.
2A. 2 times 3. Okay. Give everybody a minute to get all those written in. And we're going to simplify what we can before we move forward. So let's go left to right. And I'm going to start by putting x equals again. Yeah, we just got x equals -2. Good. Plus or minus. Oh, now let's be careful. It's not the square root of 2. 2 squared. It's going to be the square root of all these numbers, but inside of that square root, we're doing 2 squared.
So it'd be 2 times 2.
Yeah, so 2 times 2, 4. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus -4 times 3 times -3. Yep, positive 36. Okay. And that's all being divided by what? 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. So we're to here. We are at this point. Before we go even farther, does everybody understand how we got here? And if not, tell me. If you don't, tell me, please. I don't want you to be lost. I want to help you. You feel good? Okay, good.
Oh, okay.
Everybody
got it,
okay?
Okay, got it. Okay, let's try this.
Okay, guys. We ready for the next step? Only thing that we can really simplify next is what? Yeah, what's 4 plus 36? 40. So we've got -2 plus or minus square root of 40 divided by 6. Good. Okay. Now, we could start separating it here, or we could work with a decimal. So Kelly pointed something out to me that I forgot we could totally do. If, like in the last problem we just did, you guys remember we found the square root of 40 first, and then we had 4 plus or minus 6.32, and we separated it using the decimal. If we want to keep it with less points and decimal numbers to keep track of, we could hold on to the square root for a minute and simplify that later. So here's what I mean by that. This is where this calculator comes in handy. I could just type in -2 plus square root of 40. I could do that. And then get my number and just divide that by 6 instead of having to write out a whole nother step. Yes, so to get that square root again, we do second x squared. There's the square root. So we could do the top part all in one step. Now, if you feel more comfortable finding the square root of 40 and then adding it or subtracting the -2, we can do it that way. Let's write out the steps though real quick. I'm gonna write this down here. Now we've got -2 plus or minus the square root of 40 divided by 6. And let's separate our plus and minus. Okay. Let's do our plus first. -2 plus the square root of 40 divided by 6. And what would my other one be?
Minus.
Yeah, -2 minus the square root of 40 divided by 6. Okay. So I just typed in my calculator, -2 plus the square root of 40. And I got this number here, 4.32. Now I just need to divide by 6. I'll write it out so we don't lose track. 4.32 divided by 6. So divide by 6, 0.72.
I'm confused.
Well, I got it.
Okay, tell me, Star, where are you confused?
I got 38.
Did you type all of it on one line? Like, did you do -2 plus the square root of 40 divided by 6? All in one line?
Just find the square root of 40. It's easier that way.
Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Okay.
So, Star, what did you do differently? This might help some other people.
Okay, I just did the -2 plus 40.
Oh, okay. So you
I
didn't
did
do
that.
the square root
Yeah,
of
I
40.
did not do the square root of
Okay, okay, that totally makes sense.
Little easier that way.
0.72, yes. Mm-hmm. Or if you just put 0.72, I wouldn't take anything off for not having a 0 in front of it. Okay. Is doing both of these in one step, you can be honest, does that make it more confusing? Yes. Okay. Let's not worry about doing that then. We'll break it down. Let's just find the square root of 40 first. That's going to give us 6.32.
Yeah, I was doing
Same one
the
as
square.
the-
Let's do that. And
Yeah.
that's going to give you the same answer. Don't worry about doing it all in one step.
I was doing the square root of 40, and when you switched to that, I was like, wait, what?
Nope, don't worry about it. Let's just do it the way we did it the first time. Let's not try to make it fancy. Okay, so now we already know that in our subtraction problem, this is also 6.32.
Square root, right?
Okay. So let's see if we can solve the bottom one. -2 minus 6.32. I got -8.32. And we still need to divide by 6.
Just divide by 6.
Okay.
No.
So I got -1.3, and since the number after 8 is larger than 5, we would round that up to 1.39. Okay. And that would be our answer.
Got 1.38.
So I got 1.3866666667. Is that what you got on your calculator?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't round it up.
Okay, so quick little lesson on rounding. Does anybody need a little rounding refresher? How to round a decimal?
Anything 5 and over.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you would stop and you wouldn't go any further than 7 with a 4.
45, you can do either or, right? You do.
So if I wanted you to round to 2 decimal places here, and my number is 0.352. Here's my 2 decimal places. And to decide if this stays a 5 or if I go up to 6, I'm looking at this number right beside it. Since this number is less than 5, then I keep it at 0.35. Yes, so if I had 0.356, I know I'm going to have 0.35 maybe, but my number next to 5 is bigger than 5. So that tells me that I'm actually closer to 0.36 than to 0.35. So 0.36 would be our rounded answer, since the next number is larger. Okay.
I have rounding completely stuck in my brain because I have to do that with my diabetes all.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Oh.
To count how many carbs I need and how much insulin I need to take for it.
Right. And so, this is a life skill. It's a life skill. Something that you need in your life. Okay.
I had 2 done up until like step 4.
Okay. So let's see. Where was
No,
step
like
4?
I got it now.
Oh, you got it?
I had did it up to step 4.
That's pretty good. That's awesome. Getting it all the way up to step 4, you're killing it then. Good. Okay, guys. How are we feeling about number 2?
Feeling good.
Feeling a little better? Okay, how about we do another one together? Let's do another.
You zoom out so I can get a picture of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can we do like another one, but like
Yes.
you give us time and then
Yes.
and then like in a second.
So is that not gonna round up, like we have points written off of?
I guess it depends on if I tell you in the directions to round up. So if I say round to the nearest, round to 2 decimal points, then you would get taken off if you don't. But if I just say, if I don't tell you to round, then you wouldn't get points off. I'll always tell you if I want you to do that. Okay. What we're going to do next is I'm going to give you one to try on your own. Okay? I'm going to give you a few minutes to do it on your own. We'll check it together afterwards, see how we did. And depending on how we feel about this before lunch, guys, I'm really wanting to show you how to graph these. I promise. Okay, graphing sounds so scary if you've never done it, but it actually is going to make it easier. I promise. It's going to make it make more sense. It really will. Okay. Does anybody still need this? Can I give you your problem?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. Do this on your own. All those number 3. I want you to try 5x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, I want you to find the, find the values of x. Find the values of x using your quadratic formula. And I'm going to pause the video, set a little, actually, I'm not going to set a timer. If you can show me that you've got the answers, you're welcome to go to lunch early. Okay, if not, stay with me. We can talk about it. I am going to stop the recording and I'm going to work it out on my own before I come around and check you guys. All right, we are back from lunch. So we have a quadratic equation. 5x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. And we've been working to use that quadratic formula, guys. So first thing we want to do is what? What should we do first?
Label your number.
Yes, we want to label A, B, and C. What is our A? 5. A is 5. What's our B?
4.
4. And what's our C? Good, -6. Okay. What are we going to do with these? Good, plug them in. So I've got x equals what? Good.
4.
So we've got x equals negative b. So x equals negative what? 4. Good. Plus or minus square root of what?
B squared.
B squared, which is what number squared? 4 squared. And then I'm going to explain this one more time since you didn't get to see this part, Jeremiah. A lot of us were struggling with minus 4ac, so we went ahead and switched it to plus -4 times a times c, because we're going to be working with positives for now in this part. So plus -4 times what? 5. Good. And last number. -6. Yes.
Okay, I think I saw where I messed up. So in the parentheses, like under the square root, I
Mm-hmm.
put a
I put a 4. So like, do we keep that as the same as like the one like outside of it?
That's the-
Did you write -4, or are you talking about here?
Like in the
Under
yeah,
the square root?
Yeah, but I put a 4. But like, do we keep it the same as like outside
Negative,
of that?
is it a
Like,
-4?
So which
Yeah.
4 are we talking about? The 4 squared or the plus -4?
the first 4.
This one?
No, the other one.
This one?
She wants to know if you have to
The negative
mirror
4.
that B on the outside with a B on the inside.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm not-
No. Okay, so here, maybe this is gonna clarify it a little bit. We are just putting whatever the number is for B in these spots that say B in the formula. So our B is 4. So we only put a 4 here and here because B was here and here, and we're replacing those with whatever number is for B. This black -4, that doesn't ever change.
Negative on the outside.
Yes.
It's always set for that.
So all the colors are what we're plugging in. The parts I wrote in black is part of the formula. Will not change. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, what do I do next? Yeah, we're dividing all of this by 2 times 5. Good. Okay, so from here, we need to simplify some things. So I'm going to go ahead and write underneath x equals, and what am I writing here? X equals what?
-4.
-4.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus. Now what's 4 squared?
16.
Good. I'm going to make sure I don't lose my square root. 16 plus,
-4 times 5 times negative.
yeah, what's -4 times 5 times -6? 120. Good.
Then 10.
Divided by, yes, 2 times 5 is 10. Perfect. Okay, is everybody to this point? Everybody understand how we got here?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, what can I do next?
Add 16 and 21.
Yeah, we got 16 and 120.
120.
That's all right, I knew what you meant. And what's that going to give us? 136. So I could write it off to the side, or I could rewrite it all if that makes us feel a little more comfortable. I'll do that too. X equals -4 plus or minus the square root of 136 divided by 10. Okay? Now what?
Square root of 136.
Square root of 136.
Yeah, what's the square root of 136?
11.66.
11.66. So let's write that in. Now I have x equals -4 plus or minus 11.66 divided by 10. Okay. Now what?
Now you separate your equation plus and minus.
Yeah, now let's separate the plus and minus. So I'm going to have a plus equation over here. I'm going to have a minus equation over here. Let's see what that's going to give us. -4 plus 11.66 divided by 10, and -4 minus 11.66 divided by 10. And I'm going to write my symbols in. Plus and minus. Okay. Now, what is something that we need to be really careful about when we do this next step?
Putting the whole equation in the calculator at once.
So yes, if we put it all in at once, we might get an incorrect answer if we're not separating the way that it's written. So if I have -4 plus 11.66 divided by 10 in my calculator, My calculator is going to do 11.66 divided by 10 first, and then add -4 because multiplication and division come first in the order of operations. So we want to do each step one at a time, or we need to separate it with parentheses. Okay, so here's a couple different ways we could do it. Well, not be so dark. We could type parentheses in and do -4 plus 11.66, and then all of that divided by 10. We'll get our answer there, 0.766. Or we could do -4 plus 11.66, get that answer, and then divide by 10. Okay, and we'll get that same thing,
So
0.766. Say it one more time.
0.77.
Yes, if we're rounding to the second decimal place, it'd be 0.77. Okay, so let's write that out. And please stop me if you're confused. Tell me. I want to answer your questions. Is anybody lost with what we just did? Tell me if you are.
You might just show me the calculator again.
Okay, so we got 7.66 divided by 10. And we got 0. Wrong. I did that wrong. 0.77 after we round. And that would be our answer.
Oh, okay, so we can round it up. Oh, okay.
On
Okay.
paper, I do it slightly different.
How do you do it differently?
So I go ahead and I will set up like the 4 divided by 10 plus the
Yes.
11.66 divided by 10.
That's smart. That's really smart. So that way you could simplify that fraction, couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it too. So here, let's write that out. And if you like the way that we've been doing it, don't worry about this. I don't want to let this confuse you, but I like the way that Jeremiah just explained this. He separated it into -4 over 10 plus or minus 36. Is that right? Is that how you did it?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do next from here?
So then it literally adds together after you do that. Because it has to divide them both by 10 first. So it's going to do it just like if you have it all over one thing.
Right.
But it's just another way to look at it.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. That way you don't accidentally do it all in one step. You keep it separate.
Right.
How do you do that?
That's smart.
So-
So, yeah, go ahead, Jeremiah. Explain it.
Let's go ahead and divide the 4 by 10, which is -0.4.
Plus or minus.
And then since we have this, I'm just going to use 11.66 down there. That's going to be like 1.6, 1.166.
You're right. Then you just add or subtract those.
Yep.
Okay. That is a cool way to do it. I hadn't thought about it that way. So you could do it this way too if you like, or you could do it the way we've been doing it if you like. Whatever seems easier for you, whatever makes more sense in your mind. Okay, let's do the minus down here. Now we've got -4 minus 11.66. What's that going to give us?
1.53.
Yep, 1, -1. Well, first we'll do this, and then it does come out to that once we simplify or divide by 10.
Sure. 15.7.
Was it 6?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that gives us -1.57. Awesome. Okay, so we solved for both values of x. Whew. All right. So guys, here's where we're gonna, before we move on though, actually, does anyone have questions? Does anybody?
I just got a statement.
Uh-huh.
Labor was easier.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Whew. Well,
I could get knocked out during that.
that's true. That's true. Okay,
I
guys.
just wanted to, let you know.
Oh, thank you. Oh, man. All right. Let's get out the graph paper. Let's talk about what this is going to look like on a graph. Okay. So, let's use a ruler to give ourselves a nice straight edge. And we're going to create an x-axis and a y-axis. Okay, our y-axis goes up and down. I'm just going to go about halfway down the page. I'm going to put the x-axis.
We need it to be a larger or a good size.
I'm making mine about half my page.
Okay.
About half my page. So a pretty decent size.
Okay.
Making it about like this.
Okay.
And then we're going to label our x-axis and our y-axis. Okay, and then I'm going to make some little tick marks so that I can label each axis. We don't have to go all the way to the end. Let's see. I got to count. I did mine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did 8 down on the y-axis. And then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I also did 8 on the x-axis. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. You can make it bigger. You can make it a little smaller even. And then under my graph, I'm going to rewrite the equation we just solved. But instead of making it equal to 0, we're going to write it a little differently. This time I'm going to write y equals 5x squared plus 4x minus 6. All right. If you know people still writing, I'll give you a little more time. Okay. So let's talk about what we just did a moment ago. Whenever we set our equation to 0, we made it 5x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. We used that quadratic formula, and we were able to solve for 2 values of x. We got 0.77 and negative 1.57. So whenever we use the quadratic formula and our equation is equal to 0, what we are really finding there is what we call the x-intercepts. So let's go ahead and write that below our equation. X dash intercepts. Ooh, I almost put an S. C-E-P-T-S. X-intercepts. So let's go ahead and list off the numbers we just found. We got 0.77 and we got negative 1.57. Didn't write that very nicely. So does anybody, yes,
Jasmine had an emergency at work, so
Okay.
she won't be back.
that's all right. No big deal. Thank you for letting me know.
No worries.
So does anybody know what an x-intercept is? Michael?
It's where your line is intercept on the x-axis.
Yeah, it's where your line is intercepting with or crossing through the x-axis. So if our x-axis is here going left to right, first let's label our x-axis with numbers. And I think,
Thank you.
yeah, so this is just what we found on the last page.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure.
No, no big deal. You're all right. I appreciate you asking. So let's label our x-axis first. And since we've got some pretty small numbers, I think we're going to go every 2 tick marks will be 1. So it'll be like 1, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 3, skip 1, 4. Go like that. And we're going to mirror that on the other side, but with negative numbers. So negative 1, skip 1, negative 2, skip 1, negative 3, skip negative 4. Okay. And we'll worry about the y-axis in a little bit. So let's graph the x-intercepts we found. 0.77, that's our first one we're going to look at. If I'm looking at the x-axis here, starting at 0, right in the middle, if I want to plot 0.77, should I go to the right or the left?
Right.
To the right, good. And about where should that point go?
Quarter way, not.
Say that one more time.
Like a little past half.
A little past half. I know that right here in between half and 1 would be 0.75. So pretty close to there. I'm going to put it like here. So here's one of my x-intercepts. There we go. And how could we label that coordinate? Like if I were to write,
0, comma, 0.77.
Good. 0.77.
Oh, this is one for my back to me now.
Oh, actually, we did that wrong.
We did?
Yeah, because this is the x value. The x comes first. Ooh, glad we caught that. Okay, let's white that out. That's all right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
yes.
x comes first.
Yes.
That's all right. I'm glad we caught it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this point would be,
Sorry, guys.
that's okay.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah, 0.77, comma, 0. Now, why is my y value 0 for this coordinate?
This
we
one.
have no y.
Yeah, because we aren't going up on the y-axis or down on the y-axis. We are at y equals 0. That's where it lines up. Okay? And if it helps us remember, we can label our coordinate x and y. I always like to label my coordinates just so I don't forget.
Like I just did.
That's okay. That is okay. Hey, you know,
And different colors. too.
mistakes help us learn because it's going to make it us way more likely not to make that mistake again.
Hey, did you tell me that since last semester?
I love it. Okay. How about the other x value we found?
It would have to go to the left.
Yeah, it would have to go to the left. We have a negative number, negative 1.57. So I'm going to go past negative 1, past negative 1.5, just a little, probably right here-ish. And let's label this coordinate too.
So negative 1.5, that will be first.
Uh-huh.
0.
Yes, you guys got it. Negative 1.57 for our x value, comma, 0 for our y value. X, y. Good. Okay. So,
Looks like it lines directly with our slope intercept.
yeah. Say that one more time, Michael. Something with slope intercept.
0.771 looks like it's gonna align with our slope intercept.
Slope intercept form.
But we went -6 down the y-axis.
Oh, yes. I see what you mean. Okay. So guys, let's talk about the next part of this. We've got our x-intercepts labeled on our graph. Okay. Now, there are two more things that we're going to graph on here to get the graph of this whole equation. We have our x-intercepts. The next thing I want us to talk about is what we call the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. Anybody know what the axis of symmetry might be?
Jeremiah?
It's gonna be your, gonna be a line that you can put in the middle where you can have both sides match.
Yes, exactly. So whenever something is symmetrical, yes, you're right, Keisha. When something is symmetrical, it is the same on both sides. It's like when you look in a mirror, that image of yourself in the mirror is symmetrical to what you look like in a reflected way. If something is symmetrical, it's going to be the same. So the axis of symmetry on our graph is going to be the line that splits our shape that we're going to find together down the middle. So let me tell you what that's.
Wouldn't it not be symmetrical if we were to connect the 2 points?
So if are you talking about like if this was our middle?
Yeah.
So this is not our middle, is why. We're going to find the middle. We're going to find the middle to give us our axis of symmetry.
Okay.
So yeah, whenever we're looking for our axis of symmetry, all we're looking for is what is the point that's directly in between these 2 points we just found? What is the middle in between the x-intercepts? So it's actually a pretty simple thing to find, and I'll show you how. All we got to do is add these 2 numbers together and divide by 2. That's it. So I'm going to write to the side to give me a note in case we forget. Add x-intercepts. Then divide by 2. Okay. So let's work out that problem. We've got 0.77 minus 1.57 divide by 2. Let's see what happens. Minus 1. Now remember, don't do it all in one line. Make sure you do your top and then divide by 2. Go ahead. That's it. -0.4. Good. Okay, so our axis of symmetry is going to be negative 0.4.
That would be like right near the right there in the middle. Just
It,
something like
yes,
in the middle.
yes.
Oh, well.
So let's see. Let's find out where that is. I'm going to just make this a little more zoomed out so we can look at all of it at once. So here is 0. Here's negative 0.5. Negative 0.4 is going to be just a little less than that. Now your axis of symmetry is going to go all the way from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to just make it like a dotted line, like this. So that's the midpoint, basically. That's the midpoint. It's the axis of symmetry. Before we do anything more, I want to make sure that you guys do have the opportunity to ask any questions you might have. Is anybody confused about anything we've done on this page so far? Does anyone have questions?
How do you get negative 0.4?
So I added the two x-intercepts together, and then I divided by 2. So I did 0.77 plus negative 1.57. Got that answer. And then I divided it by 2.
You have to do parentheses on
If you want to do it in one.
Yeah, if you want to do it all in one go. So let's show everybody this. If I type in 0.77 minus 1.57 divided by 2, what's wrong with doing it this way?
Or the operations.
Yes, my order of operations, what my calculator is going to do is they're going to divide the 1.57 divided by 2 first. And that's not what we want to do. We want to do the addition or subtraction part first. We need to put some parentheses in there or do it one at a time. So I'm going to just clear that.
Okay, that's what I was doing wrong.
0.77 minus 1.57. And you'll get 0.8. Then divide by 2. And you'll get negative 0.4.
You do that.
Then hit divide by 2.
Okay.
You do like that.
Okay.
You got it?
I saw what I was doing.
Good, good.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got our axis of symmetry. All we're missing is a vertex. Ooh. Has anybody ever heard that word before, vertex?
Yeah.
Yes? Has anyone not ever heard that word? That's okay. So the vertex of I don't even know if I want to introduce the word. I think I've said it before. Parabola. Can everybody say parabola?
Isn't that the U shape?
Yes, that's what we're going to make right now. We're going to make the U shape. We're going to make the U shape. So a parabola is it's the shape that a quadratic equation gives us. It gives us a U shape. Okay. So we just found where the U shape is going to cross the x-axis. We found where the vertex is going to fall on the x-axis. The vertex is the point in the middle. That is the bottom of the U. So we know the x value for the vertex. We just need to find the y value. Those of you who were just in Algebra 1, do you guys remember what we would do if we knew an x value, but we needed to find the y value still? Say it one more time.
Plug in a number.
We're going to plug in our x value and solve for y. So I'm going to do this very slowly. I don't want to get ahead, everybody. We know that our vertex, let's write that down, vertex, V-E-R-T-E-X. Our vertex is going to be a coordinate, x, y. Okay? So the x in our vertex is the axis of symmetry. So what would the x value of our vertex be? Negative 0.4. So I can go ahead and write negative 0.4. And the y value we have to solve for. Solve for y. Let everybody get to that point and I'll explain how we're going to do that. Okay. Let's see.
I know.
Right.
I know.
Mm.
So maybe we show the next square there.
Mm-hmm. We can't have two.
All right, has everybody got all this to this point here? Okay, so whenever we want to solve for a variable that we don't know, we're going to use the values that we do know. We do know x. We know that x is negative 0.4. And we know that y equals this, 5x squared plus 4x minus 6. So, yeah, that's our original equation. So we can put negative 0.4 and replace it with any time we see the letter x. So I'm going to write y equals I'm going to leave spaces for x. 5x squared plus 4x minus 6.
We put negative 0.4.
Yes, we're just going to put our x value in those empty spots. Negative 0.4. I'm going to leave out the 0 because I don't have space. Negative 0.4.
We just have to solve all that. don't we?
Yep, now we just solved. So I'm going to first do my exponent, negative 0.4 in parentheses, squared. That's going to give me 0.16. Now I've got 5 times 0.16. Okay. And here, I'll keep my numbers how they were.
Would we have to put that by +4 too? Or do we have to do something on it for +4 when we get 0.16?
So we have, it's 5 times x squared. So we have 5 times 0.16 first.
I confused myself.
That's okay. That's okay. So let's see. What could we do next? Yeah, we could do 4 times negative 0.4 for this part here.
Negative 1.6.
Yeah, negative 1.6. Clear. We still got -6 here. What we got left?
5 times 0.16.
Yeah, 5 times 0.16. That's 0.8 minus 1.6 minus 6. Like we're going to get a pretty large negative number here. Okay, before I go any further, tell me if you're lost. So, if nobody's lost, then what do we do next?
-1.6.
Yes, minus 1.6 minus 6. I'm going to get negative 6.8. Is that what you got?
Yep.
Good. Y equals negative 6.8. Okay. So where does that answer for Y go?
At the bottom.
At the bottom. That's the Y value of our vertex. Negative 6.8. Okay. So all we got to do now is plot this point. And I'm going to have to change my scale on my y-axis because I did not give myself enough room. So my graph is not going to be accurate, but that's okay. I'm going to start at 0 here on the y-axis, and I'm going to go down -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. Okay. So I know that it's going to fall on my axis of symmetry.
It'd be just above -7.
Yeah, just above -7. So it's -6.8. So I'm going to go down to -6, -6.75. Notice it about right here. So, and we'll label this point too. There's our vertex. -0.4, -6.8. Okay. Man, oh man. Zoom. Where?
The vertex. Just because I can't get it.
Which part of the vertex? Down here at the bottom or the
graph.
The graph? Okay. Like that. No problem. So here's what we got. We've got our vertex. We've got our x-intercepts. And now we're going to draw our parabola. So, for what we know right now, this is going to be an estimated graph. We don't have all of the exact points in between each of these kind of, what do we want to call them? kind of anchor points. So to estimate our parabola, what I'm going to do is create this sort of U shape like this. The vertex will be the lowest point, and it curves up, goes through that x-intercept, and there should be an arrow at the top. I'll zoom out like this a little. And then we do the same thing on the other side. Curves up, goes through the x-intercept, like that. So, woo, we graphed a quadratic equation. Man. This is tough stuff, guys. It's very tough, and you're all doing a really nice job. My goal of today in doing this is just to introduce the graph to you. If you feel confused about graphing and don't feel confident in doing it on your own, that's okay. That wasn't my goal today. My goal was just to show you. All right. We'll focus much more on this later on. But I do want to show you a little trick, okay? Everybody go to your calculators for a minute. And I want you to look at the very top right button. It says graph. Click on that. Okay, you're going to see there's some stuff on there. Very top left-hand button, hit the y equals. And if there's anything typed in, clear it. And what I'm going to have you do is I want you to actually type in our formula, 5x squared plus 4x minus 6. So 5, oh, and here's how you type x. Sorry, guys. Next to the green button that says alpha, under the second button, there is a button that says xt. I don't know what that says. Yeah, 0n. Click that. That'll give you an x. 5x squared.
I think that's actually a theta.
Theta. I bet that is what it is. I feel like that sounds familiar. Which part?
Like, next to the green button, it says XTO.
Yeah, right here. This is how you make the x.
I hit that for the X, but what you just do?
Oh, to get squared. So down here, it's diagonal to the 7. It'll say x with a squared above it. You see that on the left-hand side?
I didn't know if it would just still apply to the same as the O calculus.
Yes, it does. Then we got plus 4x minus 6.
And we just press enter.
And press enter. And then once you have it typed in, hit the graph button and we should be able to see our graph. Let's see. Look at that. Whoa. Looks just like what we made. Isn't that cool?
Pretty neat.
It is pretty neat.
Star and a graph.
And look what else you can do. We can hit the button next to graph. It says trace. Click that. Once you hit the trace button, you can push the arrows. It's like a keypad here. Push the arrows left to right, and it'll tell you all the different coordinates. We can actually check our vertex and everything else. Let's see, negative 0.4. Yep, negative 0.679. We got it perfect, guys.
Yeah, 0.4. Yeah, you got that same one.
You see that? That's the right numbers. You hit trace to see this part. Isn't that cool? We can also check our intercepts, except for I don't know if it looks like it's wanting to skip over them. I might have to change the scale, and that I don't know how to do. I know how to change the window size.
Jeremiah.
I don't know that. I don't use calculators too often.
No, Jeremiah.
Yes.
Come here.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So pretty cool, guys, huh? Okay, so if you are ever trying to solve an equation using the quadratic formula and you want to check your answer, you can always type it in here and see if your x's line up closely with the graph. Pretty cool. Okay. All right, guys. I feel like I've exploded your brains again today.
Yep.
I'm going to give you an exit ticket. What'd you say?
I hope they don't.
Yeah, maybe your window size is wrong. I can try to fix it for you if you bring it up here. No, I said the graphing won't be on the exit ticket. Y'all, we haven't had an exit ticket in like a week. We need an exit ticket.
You know what,
We need some grades in our book. Okay. Good. All right.
Like you won't even turn off either. Like,
I guess they should just calm down.
so behind.
No, I don't wanna go. I need.
That's odd.
Like I would have to open it back up and try to.
Oh, something's messed up with this one. I can tell. It looks like there's corrosion in there. Pick you out a different number and I'll talk to somebody about this and see what the deal is. 'Cause that's not right.
You always get that.
Thank
Figure
you.
out what the answer actually is.
Okay, here is your exit ticket. I'm gonna write that. Yes.
Formula, right?
Yes, we are.
Wow.
Okay.
And today was, we went through it.
Yes, we did. Okay, so solve good for all values of x using the quadratic formula.
I think it might be these batteries are low on. Because I said it's not popping up right.
So,
Right now, it's 5x squared plus 4x minus 6.
Okay, make this not so classy. I feel like maybe the camera is blurry or for some reason.
then
You have 2 today.
How did I do that? Well, I wanted to figure out. Okay.
why?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I got 20 minutes to relax.
Where?
Just 2.
Get after.
Uh-huh. I have no idea how I hear it in.
All right, that's all, y'all.